Hi, I'm Erica Lukes with Expanding Frontiers Research, and I want to welcome Jack Brewer to our conversation. Jack Brewer is my research partner, and he is also with Expanding Frontiers Research.org. You can go there to our website to donate. We do a lot of great investigative work, including doing FOIA requests, which led us down a path, among many other things, to exploring a crypto company called SafeMoon. Back on May 13th, you can check out our blog written by Jack Brewer. We broke a story, Consumer Protection Agency response to SafeMoon FOIA. And we started to have questions and we dug into it. And interestingly enough, over the past couple of days, yes, the people involved in SafeMoon are now facing very significant charges. So how do these things tie into Utah and specific people? We're going to talk about those things right now. So welcome, Jack.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Erica. Yes,
Absolutely.
thank you. John Caroni, Kyle Nagy, and Thomas Smith, who are SafeMoon founders and executives, were charged this week with securities fraud, wire fraud, and money laundering. The basic premise of SafeMoon was that it was a coin that could be traded and purchased, and that they would hold a liquidity pool of a certain amount of funds. The trio also claimed that they had no access to this liquidity pool, and that they claimed as well that they did not hold or trade in the currency. The charges that stem from an SEC investigation alleged that all of this was incorrect. And I think that's kind of starting at the end and working backwards a little bit, that how we first got alerted to what seemed to be a connection between people that were promoting cryptocurrency as well as dubious UFO stories was when Erica went to what they were calling the UFO or UAP, I think, disclosure conference in Vernal, Utah, which is the same town that hosts Phenomicon, which we have reported about. And Erica, what did you find was happening when you went to the disclosure conference?
Yeah, thank you. It was very interesting to me because here you are in a setting where you're, being told all these alleged paranormal stories that take place up in the Uinta Basin, and then you've got figures that are very well known in the UFO world talking about their family members, and then halfway through most of these conversations, these lectures, they would start promoting crypto, and so it was really it wasn't even a soft transition. It was just like a boom. This is right in your face, and NFTs and crypto, and this is the type of currency if we want to travel to the stars and communicate with benevolent space beings, then we need to jump on this bandwagon. And so that really obviously took me aback. I think anybody that is a logical human being would say, wait a minute, there's a lot more going on here. And then I began, looking at people like Avi Loeb and others who were promoting this type of thing. And that's when, you and I, Jack, we started putting our heads together and making connections and raising questions, which I think are very important to do. And as a result, we've also seen other people who have been promoting these crypto scams. And as a result, there are a lot of people that really don't have a lot of means that are being pulled into these things, and they're losing a great deal of money. In some cases, their life savings, and that's most unfortunate. And that's one of the reasons why you and I both started to go down this path of investigation.
Yes, indeed. After Erica saw these people at the disclosure conference basically pitching crypto products, digital currencies and investments. We began, as she said, to look into who's doing this and how does it work. And we came across people like Chris Leto, who are selling what are known as NFTs, a supposed digital investment. And he claims that with the proceeds, he conducts scientific experiments and work on investigating UAP. That could be challenged. I'm not sure how much work he has been producing. We also, as Erica mentioned, saw that Avi Loeb was involved in this, and you can go to our blog and look through these series of posts we did and see that Avi Loeb opted to not respond to our questions about his connection, what his work had to do with Bitcoin, where he was a speaker at a Bitcoin conference. We also saw that Paul Hynek represented himself as a Bitcoin spokesperson or having to do with representing Bitcoin. He also did not respond to our questions about some of his statements. And one of the people that stood out was Brandon Fugel. We discovered that he was an adamant supporter of SafeMoon, of all things. So this led us to looking into SafeMoon and saying, well, what's going on with them? And at the point that we were looking earlier this year, had already been well known since early 2022 that SafeMoon had been involved in a series of class action lawsuits brought against them about what is known as a pump and dump scheme. Class action lawsuits alleged that they inflated the value of their coin by having well-known high-profile personalities promote it, and then the lawsuits alleged that the SafeMoon personnel were profiting from this and misrepresenting how the funds were actually being used. We discovered that long after these lawsuits were publicly known, and a number of things had happened, like, for instance, the value of SafeMoon had plummeted. It did, as the pump and dump alleged, initially skyrocket in 2021, then it plummeted. And despite this being the case, during 2022, Brandon Fugel kept adamantly promoting his belief in the general decentralized finance, as well as SafeMoon specifically. We discovered that SafeMoon's headquarters were in an office tower in Pleasant Grove, Utah, where they had a suite in the same office tower that Brandon and Collier's International Real Estate that he represents had one. And Brandon would tweet about getting with SafeMoon personnel to have strategy sessions, and that he was dropping by after work and things like this. So we kind of wondered what was up with that. And we began submitting FOIA requests to the Federal Trade Commission, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the Securities and Exchange Commission. And we got a lot of material that we have loaded onto the blog. You can see just exactly what we got. And it is just full of complaints where people said that hardworking people were getting their money taken. This liquidity pool that was supposed to ensure the value of their investments, they actually felt like that SafeMoon personnel were taking money out of it. They couldn't withdraw their funds when they tried. They couldn't get help from customer service with SafeMoon. And in one instance that we have no reason to think was particularly out of the ordinary, one complainant said that he had some $180,000 just gone, that he couldn't even get them really to account for what had happened to it when he did as instructed with some software. They wanted him to switch from their initial app to a variation too. So the more we looked into this, we wrote about it, we reported it. We found that Brandon Fugel was a member of the Utah Blockchain Advisory Committee, and that is with the state of Utah. It had an attorney warning the advisory members to tap the brakes on their efforts to make Utah what they even called the Wall Street of crypto. And obviously, some people like Mr. Fugel did not heed these concerns. And now, while we were writing our stories, we did discover, we reached out to Mr. Fugel, and he stated clearly that he was never paid any compensation by SafeMoon for promoting them. And he told us that in spite of having defended his investment expertise and having defended his position on SafeMoon, he told us that now at this point he had lost over 90% of his investment that he had once described online as owning more SafeMoon than most.
Right. Very interesting chain of events there for sure. So, and I appreciate again working with you on this. I think this is going to be obviously an evolving story with lots of moving parts. The mention of the real estate and that specific building is also interesting. It's an interesting thread. So, what else do you have to say about this, Jack? Because you've really dug in.
Caroni and Smith seem to have been taken into custody, where Nagy was being reported as at large, that they still didn't really know where Nagy was. The indictment and the reports published this week from the SEC and the Department of Justice essentially validate the complaints that we obtained earlier this year in our FOIA requests and posted that foresaw this potentially coming. They pretty much validate the complaints. They allege that the trio that was operating SafeMoon was misappropriating funds, was spending it for real estate and other assets for themselves, and misrepresenting their access to these funds. And like I say, just largely validated the complainants. Some of them, Erica, even when they filed their complaints, said, I know I'll never get my money back. I just want to file the complaint and try to keep this from happening to other people.
And that's great. And just think of how many people have not filed complaints. You know, that'll be interesting to see if this story, if the breaking news will help generate more information that will come into authorities about what has taken place.
And I'm just going to go ahead and throw this out there too. The thing with these people that promote dubious UFO stories, paranormal tales, things like that. One of the things that kind of is inherent with this is that they don't recognize standards of evidence that are recognized in the scientific community by professional journalists, by others that respect standards that establish fact. And so there really are only a couple of ways you can look at that. They either don't understand it, or they do understand it and they're willfully ignorant, willfully deceptive about it. And I kind of see this promoting SafeMoon, promoting bad investments as a similar circumstance, that in that if someone's excuse is always just that they were inept, like, does it really even matter in a certain way of looking at it, whether they're being intentionally deceptive or they're just as inept as they would kind of lead us to believe? Like, doesn't that kind of discount what they have to say about things?
Right, absolutely. And there does seem to be a common theme about promoting, as you mentioned, the UFO claims of all of this that can never be backed up, and other claims that about crypto or Bitcoin, what have you. And Utah is, as we've talked about before, Utah is definitely home to multi-level marketing. We're home to a community that is promoting things that cannot be backed up. For example, the news that we've been seeing about Tim Ballard and Operation Underground Railroad, and the large sums of money that have been changing hands for many years, promoting stories that are now, there's being investigated, and there's no merit to what has been promoted by a lot of people. And so this seems to be like I said, it's a very common place thing. I would be willing to bet, from what I'm seeing in Utah, and that does raise concerns as to what's happening with our elected officials, and why, when all these red flags are taking place, are they still promoting stuff, cryptocurrency, and making this Utah safe haven for some of these practices?
Yes, in a manner of speaking, I'd agree that this does tie in to another blog post that Erica and I did about the Attorney General for Utah, that is a proponent of paranormal things, and uh, doesn't seem to want to address that, while he takes aim at some other corporations and interests such as TikTok, and labels them to be deceptive and bad for the public good. And this seems to be, it could be argued, very selective concern about what's good for the public, as far as deceptive marketing and things like that go. And the Attorney General did not choose, his office did not choose to respond to our inquiries about that. And no, I doubt that we have seen the end of this story yet.
Right.
Excuse me.
You also reached out to Governor Spencer Cox as well for a comment with regard to this, and did not receive any reply.
Yes, and I would like to take a moment, please, to encourage those of you that find our work helpful and interesting to go to our website, expandingfrontiersresearch.org. And right there on the landing page, you will see where you can click to donate through a secure PayPal link. And we would really appreciate it if you choose to continue your support, or join those who financially support us. And your donations are used to pay the reproduction fees on the FOIA requests, such as we're discussing here today. And we'd really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. And we want to thank the people that are supporting our work at Expanding Frontiers Research. This has been for me just a wonderful experience to work with you and Barry Greenwood as well, and to do some digging into things that are, above and beyond the typical thing that we see in the UFO paranormal realm. Because as we know, we've talked many times about on the show, this is such a gray area, and it's as a result, because there are no standards, as you mentioned, a lot of things can happen that go unnoticed or unchecked, and things, people get harmed as a result, either financially like this, or they're believing claims that are not in their best interest for mental health reasons. So there are a lot of things that we've touched on with Expanding Frontiers research. And I just want to say that I'm very proud to be working with you and to be involved in a great, great organization.
Thank you, Erica. I'm very proud to work with you as well. And I'm proud of the work we've accomplished and looking forward to more things we're currently working on as well.
Absolutely. Yes. And so is there anything else that obviously this story, like I said, is just unfolding. There's so much going on, so many connections, so many places to look. What are your thoughts on how this is going to kind of roll out now that arrests have been made?
Oh, wow. I'd hesitate to even guess. I mean, it depends on everything from if people like Caroni have information that might be of use to the Department of Justice to help his cause. He, by the way, is a former analyst for the Department of Defense. It's been reported widely. Uh, it's really anybody's guess. I mean, at this point, if you're in their position, I think you get the best attorney you can afford, and you start negotiating. They, of course, are innocent until proven guilty. The indictments I tweeted about, or you can even just search and go to the SEC website and the DOJ website, and they outline in detail why they were charged with wire fraud, security fraud, and money laundering. And you can read about that. And they even list ways that they seem to be trying to freeze their assets so that perhaps some restitution can be done, or at least ill-gotten gains aren't used, now with their legal defense and things like that. And they name specific properties that are under the watch now for how they're handled of the Department of Justice. So I think a lot of things could still come out. And I think you can be pretty confident that the Department of Justice is confident in its case if it made the arrest. Yeah.
Well, and it will be interesting to see what comes out. How things, come out in the wash, and other people that will be implicated as this progresses. It was interesting, as I was doing some research yesterday and looking at some of the lawsuits that were filed, how definite influencers have been named as promoting this, and then people, as we mentioned, losing a great deal of money, their life savings and things. So can social media influencers who are out there promoting a sham, as how can they kind of escape that scrutiny? You mentioned earlier Brandon Fugel and his deflection of this very topic, but other people are involved in this. So again, it'll be interesting to see how this rolls out. And it is very unfortunate that people have lost their savings.
Yes, it is. It is. And we have covered other stories at our blog that involved millions of dollars and investments that went nowhere for supposed anti-gravity devices and things like that. And sometimes Erica and I have even discussed privately, why do you think no one ever gets charged in some of this stuff? And of course, I'm not a lawyer, but we have speculated that perhaps it doesn't rise to the extent of criminal liability, or some of these people are acting as informants that didn't go to jail. And on that note, I'll go ahead and mention and throw out there that Business Insider reported this week that Peter Thiel had acted as an FBI informant. Exactly about what or what circumstances, we don't know, but he is tossed around a lot. His name is, and the alleged funding of UAP startups and what things that could be considered seeking to get at classified United States intelligence information. And Eric and I have discussed and covered this before, that if the FBI and the powers that be aren't on the disclosure movement trying to figure out who's pulling strings and why, I wouldn't know why, because they should be.
You would definitely hope, especially with some of this things that we've seen, the things that we've discussed on the blog and on the show. It is definitely there are some red flags here. And you mentioned Peter Thiel. That is interesting, and that news frankly shocked me, but because we have heard his name thrown around so much by certain UFO social media influencers, and his alleged ties to data mining and different things. So that is a very interesting turn of events. But I definitely, I don't know, Jack, this has been so fascinating for me to work with you, to do the FOIA requests, to interview people, and to start to put things together and see how things unfold. But it is with the crypto thing and with some of these other investigations. I mean, these are very serious things that are happening. And so, as always, we caution people to make sure that you're looking into people's backgrounds and holding people accountable for making claims that that can't be backed up by fact. And I think that that's really critical, especially when you start delving into the realm of conspiracy or the realm of UFOs or UAP. You need to definitely pay attention, or even as we talked about again, like with some of the cult like things that take place, some of the new age movement, health and wellness, how all of these things can be used as stepping stones for other behavior, and people taking advantage and financially and emotionally of vulnerable individuals.
Yeah, it can honestly get difficult to even say it with a straight face, like to not employ sarcasm or resentment, and to try to seriously transfer the idea of don't take financial advice from people that try to lead you to believe aliens are flying around their ranch. This just, I mean, it gets hard to even seriously state that, or if not their ranch, um, there are certainly people like Erica saw at that conference that at least ostensibly claim to believe extraterrestrials are navigating our skies and they've got some great investment advice for you. And just really be careful with stuff like that, folks. I mean, come on.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we've talked about so much, Jack, over, I mean, how we've known each other for a long time. We've been collaborating on Expanding Frontiers research for a little over a year now, but we've talked, about some of these topics again and again. And there is a need for, as we see with a lot of different things, for people to belong, or for people to feel like they're onto something, and that's why QAnon has risen to such heights, because it taps a need in people, and then it also plays on some of the mistrust of the government, some of these other beliefs that are unfounded, and it can result in very dangerous destabilizing effects on not only a human being but on our democracy. And so there's a lot at play here, and people have to understand that the need to pull back and not believe. And I will say this, and I've said this on my shows for years, that I've been this has been a work in progress for me. I began to I went into believing specific things, and as I started to question other individuals involved, or organizations involved, and their lack of transparency or answers to things, that's when I began to step back and really look around me and understand that there's a lot at play, a lot of really dark, heavy stuff that people need to be aware of. And that's why, for me, I'm so passionate about what we do with EFR, and also on the show over the years. This is really critical. I never want anybody else to suffer, or to fall into a state where they're financially destitute because of some of these schemes that we see that can be inserted into many different narratives.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes. So thank you very much, Jack. On that note, I want to just reach out to all of you and say thank you so much for following us. You can go to expandingfrontiersresearch.org to subscribe to our email list. And as Jack mentioned earlier, you can also go there and donate to our nonprofit. It is tax deductible, and your donations help our investigations with FOIA requests. It helps cover costs for shows, and we want to continue to provide information that is important to the public. That is our mission, and we look forward to doing that. So thank you for your support. I'm Erica Lukes, here with Jack Brewer, and we will see you next time.